think the honorable thing for our species to do is deny our programming. Stop reproducing. Walk hand in hand into extinction. One last midnight, brothers and sisters opting out of a raw deal.
Do not trust any friends or family members. I repeat, do not trust friends.
I want to see him bite that vulture in 4K.
I did. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, okay, that was going to be not my first question, but it was going to be a follow-up question.
The crucifixion?
Yeah.
Just in general, like, did you watch it, and how was the bird? You know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like it went
I did, and
it
went down way smoother than it did in the past.
Okay, so you too had a redefining experience. So
yeah, I felt like I saw it differently.
Oh, well,
and I saw the pacing differently also. And the same thing happened to me with what we're doing right now.
Oh, fucking Alien on the Extinction Agenda with James.
And Chris.
And the transition that I was going to use at some point if our conversation went on is to say that, oh yeah, I forgot, we got to talk about the bonus situation.
Oh,
the bonus. Yeah.
I forgot to talk about
that's right.
Shares, right?
Yeah.
Overtime.
Yeah. But I just wanted you to know I did have a plan. But this
damn, I ruined it.
Yeah, all right. So here, no, that was excellent. A+. The movie. I don't know. Everybody knows what this movie is. Alien, released in theaters May 1979, directed by Ridley Scott, written by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Suchet, with a lot of input from the producers over at Brandywine, Carroll, Giller, and Hill. Jerry Goldsmith music, and Ridley brought in this guy Derek Van Lith, who as a cinematographer, who did all the commercials with him, because Ridley had come in from commercials, and this is like his second film. And there's all, the guys who did the special effects. I mean, it's kind of like a murderer's row of people who already were well established or who were going to be very well established, and it's they putting together a fucking very fine film. I'll just say, like, off the top, like, I've never loved this movie. I admire it. The more I watch it, the more I think about how it was constructed and all that stuff. But I've never loved it, and I still don't. I just can't bring myself to really get out of bed for it, which is strange. So anyway, but yeah, it's great. I mean, I in preparation, like, I watched the original one. I watched the 2003 director's cut, which is horse shit. And
this is like 60 seconds of extra footage, or?
Oh no, it's a bunch of stuff. He spliced in, like, he just put in a bunch of extra scenes, which are the only one.
The only one, yeah, I know which one you mean.
There's only one that's real value, but which is kind of trash.
Well, it was because it was reworked in a better way and put in aliens.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And then it was a good idea that just wasn't as good, so they cut it. And then
and this mystery. I mean, we'll talk about it some more later. We'll keep it a mystery.
We'll call it the mystery. Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing about this movie that is going to be alien to our audience. Everybody knows I don't know if everybody knows, but it's highly likely that people listening, like, they've read about this movie, they've watched it a bunch of times, they know all the trivia, this, that, and the other thing. It's fucking picked over as fuck. So, I'm going to operate under the assumption that, like, the audience is aware of things. But nevertheless, I also at the same time think that we should kind of spell some shit out, because over the course of this month, we're going to be doing a bunch of Aliens movies. After next week, we're doing Aliens. Then we're doing some Dark Horse comics, Aliens Earth War. We're going to do Prometheus. And then for episode 300 of the old Extinction Agenda, we're gonna end off on Romulus. So talking about this movie kind of more explicitly and teasing everything out is, I feel, would be pretty helpful to the ongoing project of the month, like deciding what's at play, particularly when Ridley comes back. Anyway, I've talked a lot. How do you guys feel about Alien?
I don't know about Chris, but I'm gonna say I like Alien better than you do. I don't know, like, so this time around, I feel that I used to at some point or another I broke through and felt like the pacing was very slow, too slow.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we always excuse that as the film coming from the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, like, well, it's not, you know what I mean? It doesn't have the same, like, frame per second as the low attention span of X date or whatever, whenever that sort of took hold. But this time I felt like the pacing was faster, and appropriate. Like like things, sequences moved, like the initial wake up, into the space drop, into the problem, into the birth, right into the, and then the hunt, and then that leads to the hunt reversal where they're basically just fighting for their lives, and then back to the detonation of the ship and the escape or whatever. So there's really cookie cutter, and I don't know, I felt like the flow was better this time.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. It works very well as a movie. I don't. Again, I don't have any.
Is that your issue with it? Is that you just don't feel that anything exceptional happens outside of just like pure competence?
It is the case that I find it is too quiet a lot of the time. And I can, again, I don't want to be shitting on this movie at all, because I do like it, and it did kind of raise in my estimation watching it a few times. But it's very quiet, and it has a languid pace a lot of the time. Like it sort of luxuriates in its own set, which is to its benefit, because I think ultimately this is, you referred to it as like competence, but I think it's like, I think it's far more than that. I think it's a series of exceptional events which all sort of came together to create something that, just as a for instance, like, I don't want to talk about the other movies in the franchise too much, but I will say, just to put this in perspective, like, this movie makes Aliens seem fucking cheap as fuck. Just like, it looks like it's made out, like, Aliens looks like it's made out of tinfoil and plasticine and stuff. This movie is, everything looks like phenomenal. It has a fantastic set, but yeah, I still can't super get into it, because, like, I think it's a little too languid and a little too quiet a lot of the time. And then when the music, I've come around on the music. Jason, friend of the podcast, has sold me on the soundtrack on this, and a lot of the sound design as well. And so, yeah, they're like, yeah, it sometimes it's very thunderous, but other times it's less so. Sometimes it's just like completely silent and these sterile environments. Anyway, Chris, how do you what's your feeling about Alien?
Yeah, a lot to pick up on there. Just to comment quickly on the that pacing you're talking about. I timed the opening, and it's 5 minutes before you even see a person. It's right, an interesting choice, right? It's like they're really, and at the same time really impressing on you the isolation, the sense of how just how under the ship's control they are, like how much Mother has is doing things by autopilot. I feel the same way you do in a lot of ways. This is probably, I would say, the second best movie in the franchise. It's a great movie. I just don't feel that anymore. Although when I watched this as a kid, this movie scared the shit out of me. The chest bursting scene in particular. Once you get a thing like that, it's hard to know. Anything can happen, right? But then now that it's happened, like, some of the magic and the terror is lost. So I don't know if you guys felt the same way, like if it scared you when you were kids, but this was sort of probably my first experience was just like primal fear in watching a movie. And I was probably like 8 or 9 when my dad decided to show me this movie, so that was a factor as well.
And maybe that's a thing, like, because my first exposure to the Alien franchise was Aliens, and my parents would sometimes have Alien on in the background in the irresponsible way that parents would back in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And I just it never did it for me. Never scared me. When the alien shows up and he like his little fucking greasy paws go, ha! I was like, it didn't do it
Yes.
for me, like yeah. And
that is a bad scene. That in particular.
Dallas in the tunnels.
Yeah, and he's like, ha ha.
That's
like,
that's I think that's part of it. Like when I watch this movie and like their effects at the time, like it's some of the work is so good, like how they I guess are lowering like the head down sometimes, like they have the big one, but then when it comes to the like any movement scene, I'm always consciously aware that it's a guy in a suit.
Yeah, I feel that scene literally could have just left the hands out and had the same quick cut, and it would have been thousand times better. Like you did all that fucking work to get the design. Like you all, I don't know if any trivia heads are out there, or if you guys, and I know you guys have seen it and we've talked about it a million times, but you've seen the designs, right? That they went through, the different aliens that they said, like, this is what the alien's gonna look like, this is what the egg's gonna look like, and it was mental. It was the worst, like, bizarro, like, bug aliens that you could imagine. Like they like you laugh out loud if you ever look at the sketches, like the concept art. It's fucking crazy. And then they hired Giger. They hired H.R. Giger. They brought him in, and apparently their studio execs, like, someone got a hold of one of his books, like this is Necronomicon or whatever. When they came down on Ridley, and they said, this guy's sick. He's mentally ill. You need to take him off set. You fire him. And he advocated to keep him in, and then he's the one that, like, revised their monster and revised a lot of their set designs, like the eggs, the space jockey, the astronaut, the space jockey, all that stuff. Like the bones, the fact that they walk into the ship is a giant fucking space vulva. Like it's fucking awful, and it stays with you, and the images of the design work, and like you say, that was all the sets. And then I think part of my change in my feeling about the pacing too. I don't know if you guys have seen this lately, but I've seen the remastered ones now recently. And you can see a lot more the HDR and not necessarily the 4K, but the HDR, the high dynamic range lighting. It's the blacks in the film that you can see more. You can see the set, the hallways, and that's a big deal to get a better look at that. And you can see all that now, and I think that changes the pacing because you have a lot more to look at than like a black grainy VHS. And that's only more recently that you've gotten access to that. And that's set, like you were talking about, James. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the top down on this thing, like in the sound stage. It's he built the ship. The Nostromo is a ship. Like they had to go into the set, like to film all this. Like it's like not, it's a closed system. It's like the fucking ship is a real place, and they built it, and that's why it really feels like you're fucking trapped, and you're bouncing off the walls, and you're hunching, and you're having trouble going around corners, and that's because it's physically there and small. And that helps.
There's a couple things. I mean, there's many things that makes this work, but the three main things we've kind of touched on already is the set and the alien, like the design work or whatever, and then a fantastic cast where with immediately likable, if not likable characters, then characters that you're interested in, which is practically the same thing.
The labor dispute like happens right away, and I've always loved this movie for that they wake up and they're having the meal and the food is shitty and they're cold and they're kind of laughing about it because like they know what to expect. They've been doing it for a long time and this is their job, but like that kind of camaraderie and like, though we all have a shitty job, like, you bond with people about stuff like that. And it is really relatable from the get-go because of that too. Because like we're all like, you know, like most of the world is in that position, like subservient to the corporation and the demands of capital. In fact, I didn't know this little trivia that I picked up fresh, but I always wondered what the Nostromo meant, but I didn't really delve into it.
You? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the Conrad book, and in that book, it's about a sailor who's like at the whim of a mining company. So like it, you know, even in its solutions, it's taking up that struggle that's been around for a long time.
And another Conrad reference is the little escape pod is called the Narcissus, named after the N-word of Narcissus, also a Conrad book. And the Sulaco in Aliens is also anyway. So it's funny that all the ships are named after Conrad. Shit, I think that's cool. You know, you get your Heart of Darkness in there. That's a nice little writerly touch.
Yeah, and that carrying forward that idea of empire and expansion and the dark side of all those impulses.
Yeah. And yeah, like there is. So maybe there's also a fourth thing, and I mean we'll still talk about the actors and whatnot, but the fourth thing is also because this movie was not extremely well reviewed when it came out. People liked it. People went to it. I think it's one of those situations where the audience knew what was what, but the critics didn't. And so then why does it survive? What are the audiences globbing onto? And it's kind of what, it's the Giger, it's the, well, I'll call it like the sexual politics that are baked into this movie, the ideas of this movie. Like, why does the alien survive? Other than the fact that it looks really cool. Like you've got your two major monsters of the 20th century. You got your predator and you got your alien, right? You got your swamp monster and your fucking your new version of Dracula, essentially. And predator, I think alien stands far and above the predator as a concept, simply like due to the complexity of what this beast represents and what everything in the show represents. It's a very, and one of the things that I do glob onto in rewatching Alien is that, what I'm terming its sexual politics, or its, I don't know, critique, or whatever the fuck's going on here, the fucking mess. I'm constantly catching new elements that feed into the themes and ideas, and I don't even know to the extent that everybody was conscious of it. Like it's this thing that overflows and it fascinates as a consequence.
Yeah, I was thinking about these movies as like there's a formula to them. There's like, and James, you laid that out like even as you were breaking down the sort of structure of this movie. But at the same time, they're like each movie is a remix, and different elements are featured. That like even pieces are lifted wholesale as if they had never happened before, and inserted into other ones. But it almost doesn't matter because it's almost like those themes just consistently resonate. And if you put a little bit of a spin on a little slant, you're going to have something fresh, because I guess the monster is strong enough that we're always going to be interested to see, whatever little variation you can squeeze out of it.
And early on, like whatever variation you can squeeze out of Ellen Ripley, and Sigourney Weaver's character, who is, they say that Ripley was originally written as a man, and then they just changed it to a woman, and that's why she's so sort of masculine and effective and that sort of thing. She's just a male character who happened to be a woman. I'm not convinced that that's the case, because they got her to kind of strip down into her panties and walk around for a little bit for us. And her fascination with cats and whatnot. I just find, and her cattiness, literally with Lambert, I just find it, it kind of puts the lie to that sort of myth for me.
And they also apparently cast, or like we're considering Meryl Streep and what's her name? Oh, Helen Mirren. So like to have actresses of that caliber in the mix seems like you'd have that idea ahead of time.
Yeah. Man, who do you, what did you say? What was the first one you said?
Meryl Streep, which would have been
Meryl
weird.
Streep. Jesus, I love Meryl Streep, but like, man.
Yeah, that's a weird choice.
Not appropriate for this movie.
No, I don't. I disagree. I think I could have got behind that.
You think of Meryl Streep? Jesus Christ. I'm putting it in my mind.
Yeah, that would have been a lot of fucking business.
Yeah.
I would have been. Yeah, I feel like that level of sternness and I'm gonna say masculine aggression could have been delivered.
Sure. Yeah, no, it would have been like Ripley times 10, Ripley on steroids, just coming in. Yeah, fucking crazy. We'll talk a little bit about the.
This is a real. I'm gonna take us on a side quest quick.
Oh sure, yeah.
I watched a funny clip of an interview with Ray Liotta recently, and he said that the worst. They asked him who the worst fucking kisser in Hollywood was. That woman that he kissed, and he immediately he paused and immediately without hesitation said Sigourney.
Oh no.
So I just found funny.
Yeah, it is funny. Yeah, that's not what she gets into. That's not what she's for.
It's true.
Stepping on your nuts.
Yeah, even when she is like when she strips down in the final scene, and like obviously like she's leaning over, like they've clearly like thought about that shot. She just doesn't come across as sexualized. She just comes across as stern and like that she'll kick your ass.
Yeah, that's fair, but it's still tiny panties though.
They're very yes.
What the fuck with those panties, man? Okay, so I don't know if this is true, but apparently she wouldn't shave is the story. I forget where this entered into my mind, but Ridley Scott spent a lot of money to have like, can you do this in 1979? This doesn't even sound right to me. But there was some sort of headline recently where like it was making the rounds that she was refusing to shave, and so they spent a lot of money to have something digitally removed, but then they didn't have to do it, or I don't know, something like that, some sort of stupid controversy.
I do not believe that any pubic hair would be capable of being digitally removed in any way, shape, or form at this time.
In 1979, yeah, no,
there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way. Because you couldn't man, your laser effects and shit were like used by transposing like fucking clear negative films with like marker on it and shit.
Yeah.
Like I don't buy that.
Yeah. I'm looking up what you talk amongst yourselves while I look up how this entered into my mental Rolodex.
I don't see any hair,
Yeah.
Not that I going through the images or anything.
Anyway, okay, there we go. No, I'm not gonna. She refused to pull up her panties. Is that the problem? Anyway, this is stupid. So. The cast. What do we think of not just the cast, but the characters? Let's cause they're very central to this film. I will say that Dallas is really the worst captain.
Oh, he's so weak
in the entire universe.
Yeah,
he's volatile and like just like impatient. Dismissive.
Yeah, does not have his crew's back. He's basically his line is like, we do whatever they tell us, whatever
the company
tells us.
Yeah, it doesn't have that name in this movie. It's just the company
that's right.
At this point.
Yeah.
Although apparently some of the materials, like the set designers put a name on. Of Wayland Yutani, and so that got picked up in Aliens. But I like that. I prefer that the company is just the company. I think it has more. It's kind of a Morrisonian thing, like a Grant Morrison vague statement that you can plug shit into. That's always much better.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's the whole, and that's the whole, like, the fact that, like, the cast wakes up and they're exhausted. That's always fun.
Mm-hmm.
Wake up, start your day, and it fucking sucks to be at work, which is funny. And then I like the hierarchy being established, right? So there's the company we've got to do, and then there's the breakdown of the contract, which just establishes everybody. It establishes Parker, and obviously they're having their funny back and forth about the bonus situation. We talked about that, but then that's where you get to see Tom Skerritt, like the captain, right? And then Ripley is like the lieutenant. So those two have to sort of hold everybody to a higher level of professionalism, and then they've got the robot spouting off the actual terms of the contract. So it's just like that's fun. It's funner than having the, I don't know. I think the flushing out the company. Yeah, like you say, I don't want to talk about Prometheus or anything yet, but I feel like fleshing out the company does what everyone complains about it doing, is that it just sort of takes the piss out of it.
Yeah, because we're much more.
I'd rather imagine this just shit entity.
yeah. It's just like, and it's like it stands in at a certain point for, because later on Sigourney's going, or Ripley's going to speculate as to why Mother, their AI, rerouted course, and why the order was that the crew was expendable and the alien needs to be captured. You know, she speculates that it's for the weapons division. And so, like, you know, this is 1979. This is a Cold War movie still. Like, this is biological weapons. This is mutually assured destruction. And, you know, all that shit, which is still prevalent now, of course, but less in the cultural, I don't know, fucking zeitgeist or whatever, right? So the company becomes like the Rand Corporation. It becomes like Lockheed Martin, but it's also in mining. It's all this like industrial grossness. Like, it doesn't have to be something that rules the earth. It just could be like the Dutch East India Company or something, right?
Right.
Which is why it's called the company.
Comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that frontier where capitalism can just run wild and like laws just don't apply. Whatever they're going to do, they're going to do.
But law does apply. Like, it really does. It's just like it's a fucking contract where things aren't to the advantage of the worker.
But it's not law. That's like the company has the power to withhold your shares if you don't answer that distress beacon.
That's law. Sorry, not to be too.
Well, you know what I mean.
It's contract, man. That's all that law is. Like, it is the contract that people enter into. I mean, we all exist under contracts, like, to greater or lesser benefits, right? And so too with these people. And I think that's what we glob onto when we view them as working class. We recognize them as individuals who are also under contract to the employer. That's a universal state for all of us. And then there's the different, the James, you refer to it as the hierarchy. Like, there's the underclass who perform the blue collar labor, and then there's the engineering class, the intellectuals. It's a little microcosm of society.
There's a real upstairs downstairs quality to it too, where the engineers, like, and in fact, when we gave Warren Ellis credit for like the dynamics of a ship for that space comic, I forget what it's called. Doesn't matter.
Actually, now I'm drawing a blank too. I'm like,
well, anyway,
space
that one.
comic.
Ignition City. One thing we talked about was how they the people like the engineers like had this sort of like sense of being below, like there was labor and grittiness, but I think he might have just been riffing off of this movie, come to think of it. But anyway, like there's a real materiality to what they bring to, that sort of like the conflict with Ellen, like when they're down in the tunnels and she's, again they're asking like, you think we'll get full shares from this? Like answering the stress call, she's like, you'll get what you deserve. And they got
you'll get everything that's coming to you.
Yeah. And they know that answer. And then when she leaves, he just turns that valve and like all that steam that's in her face just disappears.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's really funny. But it's funny. I thought it was funny also that he turned it back on, right?
Yeah.
Like it was serving a purpose, but it was also something that he could have at any moment.
He could have helped her out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the really cool part about that too is the like at work, I'll do that. I'll just sometimes you'll walk around and you'll just talk shit, and then you'll have your own boss accept the fact that you're talking shit about the hierarchy, and then sort of bring you back into a professional zone. Like, all right, we're good now. Everybody got that shit out of their systems, let's get back to fucking work, or let's get back to professionalism or whatever,
Yeah.
So that being seen is just the charm.
Yeah. The other thing I really like being seen too is that like sense, like when they're talking about the ships and the guy's like, oh, it's gonna take like 19 hours to repair. He's like, it's gonna take like 24 hours. Like you never give your all or like the actual time to your superiors because then they're gonna then it's gonna create a thing, an expectation, right? It just understands those dynamics.
Yeah. And building on top of that, getting to the alien, and maybe also talking about Ash, and also everything that happens to Kane. Well, no, even like the fact that they sit down and have a meal. Like, how often do you see that in movies? Like, really, do you get like people just eating their fucking breakfast and kind of looking gross and smoking cigarettes, and a lot of cigarettes in this fucking movie? I'm pretty sure you don't do that in outer space. Probably not advised in a pressurized environment in which oxygen is at a premium, but whatever. It was the 70s. I guess it also continues into the 80s. But yeah, just like they're ingesting things. It's an important part. It's humans. Even when they first show up, they're like little babies being hatched from a dragonfly.
Yeah.
And they're wearing fucking diapers.
Yeah. There's a visual echo too, I think, of the opening of the pods when their hatches open.
Yeah.
Like the eggs, yeah.
Yeah. Writers have made something of this, like the sterile birthing of the human versus the viscous, that's not the right word, but the fucking gross, abject nature of the alien, that kind of thing.
Mm.
But it's still like they're like he's literally birthed right in front of us, and he waddles, and I think it's significant that it's Kane that comes out, and
yeah.
And James, you said this movie had like sort of like an art house quality to it. I think this is definitely a scene where that's the case. There's these like fade outs and these like superimpositions. Like he's in like he's almost dreaming as he's awaking, and it's a really great effect. And you don't even think about it happening because everything's so slow, and they haven't even started speaking yet.
Yeah, and I was talking this was when I got myself a bit of a class on chiaroscuro lighting.
Mm-hmm.
Chiaroscuro. Apologies for that pronunciation.
I think
scene. So that's a painter. There are painters that riffed off of that, and they were contracted. This is a real hack job here, guys.
That's fine. I know what you're talking about.
This, but they were contracted by the church to make these paintings, and they made them pop on canvas back in the day, way back in the day.
Sure.
The Renaissance times, and they made the pictures pop by blacking out the back, starting on black canvas and putting white on top, and this makes someone's shoulder come forward with more depth, and gives you things to be concerned about in the dark behind. You can faintly shadow something in. You can make it look like a demon. It could just be a table or a water pitcher. And these are the things that Ridley and whatever his cinematography team, they riffed off of this lighting technique, and he is supposed to be somebody who's like sort of a master at implementing this tactic in his shots, so that he uses that depth and that blackness and that balance of black and white and foreground to make it so that there's an ominous depth, and that there's a shadow that you're going to take a second glance at, because you can sort of see something, or you can see the makings of something. And part of that's Giger too, because that's part of his charm too, is being able to hide those images within his paintings. And I my brother sort of took me to school on this a little bit, but I had started reading about it, and I read about how it was it was just, I don't know, it's just used to keep you guessing what's in the shadows, and it was slick. It causes the claustrophobia. And then I also noticed this time that I don't know if you guys noticed this, when Ripley's finally alone, when everyone else is dead, they start close-upping her. That's not a word, but they pan in on her more, and she's sweating, and you're panicking with her. So it's just like there's so many tricks and so much pacing and so many artists involved, that it's just, when you break it down and when you rewatch it, you're gonna get something else.
Yeah, and it consistently happens. I'd said that earlier, although in the realm of ideas, but not just there. This is one that's, I don't know. Fuck. I guess I found myself thinking about my enthusiasm for the Terminator. I was like, yeah, this is a 10 out of 10 fucking movie. This is great. And I'm just like, why? Where is that? Why can't I feel that for this? Despite is it too highbrow? Because this is a stupid monster movie. Like I also thought about I thought about whether, like, what would this movie look like, like you had said earlier, like without Geiger, without the set designers, without Ridley Scott, without a different cast. Like, you take away any of these elements, and fuck, this would be the stupidest. Like, no wonder people didn't want to film this. It would be
a B that would just you would be a career ender.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's just like that. Like, the concept of the monster that lays eggs in you and stuff like that, that's particularly horrific in and of itself, but it could have been delivered like embarrassingly, and it happened to be delivered in the greatest way possible at every given moment.
There's so many good elements of the design of the monster too, like the fact that, like, the face huggers are like the intermediate phase, like that it will choke the host if you try to remove it. That scene with the acid is so brilliant, where it's like burning through the layers of the ship, and they're like racing down to try to stop that. And, like, what do you do against that when if you do remove it, it'll kill everybody on board. Like, you're gonna be completely fucked. Like, there's so many elements of it that torque up the tension and increase the claustrophobia. That thing's going to be a problem to deal with, right away.
And the beauty of Ripley in this is, like, none of this would have happened if anybody had just at any given moment just listened to Ripley.
She's so calm too.
And she's really aware of the circumstance right off the bat, like right off the hop, when they wake up from hypersleep or whatever, and they're looking out and they're like, where's Earth? And she's like, this isn't the right system. It's like the first thing she says. And everybody just doesn't really take it seriously. It's just something she says in the background. And then eventually Lambert figures it out. But then Kane is still kind of like, that doesn't make any sense. And then the girls are catty with each other about it because Sigourney's already figured it out. And she's like, it's not the same system. And it starts from there. Like, she's constantly serves the role of questioning lazy decision making, or corporate this, or just like at any given moment she's both questioning but also following orders at the same time. It's weird.
That's unhorror-ish also, which maybe gives it the extra edge that it has, the charm that there is someone intelligent on board making intelligent decisions that's being like fucking hobbled at every turn by idiots and by a shitty corporation that's lying and gaslighting her, which is so funny because that's also so relatable at work.
Yeah,
it's just like point. to be like to make good decisions and to do your fucking work and to stay in your lane and to make intelligent realizations only to just be like lied to and told you're a fool by a company. Oh, just fucking, it's the chef's kiss.
And to have Ripley there, it changes the formula or expectations of horror, because then like every dumb decision that happens, you have the catharsis of Ripley being like, we should have fucking nuked it from space. That's probably not this movie, but like it just allows you to fold all of the bad decisions in. Because one thing that I want to say, and I thought this would be more of confrontation, but it sounds like you maybe we'll get into this later, but it sounds like you maybe have had a bit of a change of mind about Prometheus. But in Prometheus, like I don't think John Hurt's character, I don't think Kane is any less stupid than the crew that goes on to Prometheus.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
That's what happened to me. That's literally like that's the conversion moment I had, because I was like, fuck, Kane, what are you doing? What are you fucking doing? You're just like, we must go on. We must go on. You fucking idiot.
And he goes into that cave. This is a warm, moist cave. It's really fucking humid in here. Goes by himself and then is like prodding these fucking eggs. Oh, something's moving inside. Like it's all bad decisions. But we don't feel it that way because we have the like Ripley as the focal point.
It does help, although I did find myself frustrated with Kane this round, and I did find myself thinking of Prometheus. Like, what do you? And it's like it's an Icarus story at this point. I think what makes it different is that original statement when they see the spaceship. And actually, his first statement is like, "I need to volunteer to be the one to go out." And they know that about him. Oh, I expect like that's Scarrett's response or Dallas's response. Like, oh, of course, right. You're a shit-eating wild man for this bullshit. And so he wants to like, and we have to go on. We have to go on. There's something like the curiosity killed the cat sort of thing. The parable, and again, we'll talk about Prometheus. Whereas I think the scene in Prometheus is a little different, but not that different. It was the remix moment.
I think too. We haven't spoken really much about Ian Holmes' character Ash, and that character is such a fucking problem in this movie because he is lying, he's gaslighting, and he's following the orders of the robot. But the funny thing about him is that he's in this bit of a subservient medical position, and he's disrespected because he's like not really an accepted crew member by the whole crew, right?
Except for Dallas.
At any and all given times, except for Dallas, which ends up being a donkey. But I mean, like, even the Parker and not Lambert. Lambert's the girl. Anyway, Brett, like Parker got him. He's like, you're sitting in my seat. Like they literally move him. He's like second class.
Yeah.
Get out of my fucking chair. Because they're trying to like set him off or just like push the limits of what they can command him to do because he's not one of them. So I do find it weird that they allow him to break quarantine. Like I'm surprised they didn't just like fucking throw him in a prison cell after that. Fuck this robot. Like it's just there's a hang up there. But I know
Scarrett wanted that. Dallas and Lambert are fully on board with breaking quarantine, and the only one against it is Ripley.
And
Yeah, they were
presented
having
as
like a
always.
weird family moment. Yeah, but like, it's just I just found it funny because I know you need those breakdowns for horror to happen. But yeah, it was and Ian Holm was so good as that character. He was just so awful and off. I think him bleeding milky shit and tweaking while rolling up a fucking magazine and trying to jam it in Sigourney's mouth
a porn magazine. I'm pretty sure.
porn
more
magazine.
fucking that scene to me of like woman violence, like violence against women, was more horrifying than the majority of the alien violence when I was a kid.
Yeah,
Like that stayed with me. That was fucked.
There's a part of it.
Alarming.
Yeah, the conundrum, or the what's the word I'm fucking looking for? The thing that kind of stood out to me this time about Ash is, so they've suited up. This is before the aliens entered the ship or whatever, before the quarantine's broken, before it's revealed anything about Ash. Even that, like when he, sorry, this is a little side bit, but Sigourney Weaver, Ripley's like, she asks Ash, has Mother decoded this message yet? And Ash says no. Ripley says, do you mind if I take a hack at it? And he's like, go ahead. But then you kind of see him like kind of look in the sky like, oh, like she's going to figure it out. Because I've already figured out that it's a warning. But so that's happening in the background. But as he's zipping himself up into some sort of flight suit for some reason while the other guys are going out, and he takes a moment to do this really fast jog on a spot. And I can't make heads or tail of why that's happening. Like he's got this nervous energy to him that he has to like expel so that way he can stay cool and fucking gaslighting everyone. It's a one moment where he breaks. And it really stood out to me, and I guess maybe I have an explanation for it because I just offered one, but it still stands out to me as, and again, we don't need to, but he's not David, he's not Bishop, he's something else. You don't really get a sense that he's a robot early on.
The Model T whatever's always been twitchy, man.
Yeah, well, I thought about that too. Yeah, right? I did think about that. I was like, they took care of it. Yeah.
That's so
Did you guys see the trivia that's like the fights that they had behind the scenes where Dan O'Bannon was like, this is an unnecessary character. So basically, when they gave the screenplay to Walter Hill, like they did a lot of rewrites and revisions, and to the point where O'Bannon thought that they were trying to like cut him, like write him out of the thing. And so like the android character wasn't at all part of the script at all, complete invention of Hill, and Bannon just thought like, this is completely unnecessary. There's no reason for this guy at all. Later on, that team, I don't know if he did specifically, but his partner, whose name I forget, was like, one of the best. Yes, one of the best parts of the movie. And absolutely, the androids are like such a, like, to me, the most interesting part of the franchise. I'd have to, even more so than the alien. Like and I think that's picked up on like later with David, and like this is an unexplored thing. We need to go further into the separation between android and human and the species, like this sort of these different perspectives.
I think there's that, but also the analogy, like what is that? What are Ash's? Well, okay, so rewind for a moment. I think Dan O'Bannon's original idea probably wasn't very good. I think like whatever Walter Hill and those guys brought to it, I think clearly they brought like that X thing that brought it all together. Everybody did. Every new voice brought something that made this exceptional and mythological and whatnot. Knowing that story, knowing that element, I find myself like I'm not mystified by Dan O'Bannon as a creator, because we've seen the other things that Dan O'Bannon has created, and like, like.
Well, one Total Recall, he's involved in that, so.
Yeah, he's involved, but he didn't create. Like, he didn't create it. Just adapt the play or whatever. He's just like he was involved with this.
Yeah.
But he's not the thing that made it
work.
That's fair. But okay, so the androids, Ash's comments about like Ash and the alien are compared or comparable, in their inhumanity throughout this. Ash is when they open him up, he too is all like I looked up. Well, I didn't look it up. I think it was just in the Wikipedia, but like that mess of wires that he's made out of, like catheter tubes and fiber optics and fucking milk and just like
it's disgusting. Apparently it's fucking smelled.
Oh.
Yeah. And what does he say about it? It's like I admire it. It's a perfect organism beyond morality, beyond this, that, or the other thing. It's all about survival. And if you link Ash to the corporation, that becomes a little more, well, not, it's pretty chilling to begin with, obviously. But it links everything together. Like it suddenly the alien becomes about rapacious capital and how it attacks the humanist gendered subject. Like all sorts of shit suddenly opens up, and you're like, ah.
I think sorry, go ahead, James. You're about to say something.
No, I was just gonna say that's the fun part, I think, about the relevance that holds today with sort of AI emerging, is the idea that if you can develop an AI like this and put him in a position with working people where, without any type of morals or laws in play, that your corporation's going to have full control over this thing to the point where you'd be expendable or able to be just like worked into the ground for capital. It's just the worst form of capitalism. And then, like you say, to twist it around and juxtaposition it, where it's like it can take like a ruthless monster and say this thing is more important than all of you also, because we can drain capital from it also. And it's just the, like you say, the idea string that comes out of that, and the relevance today especially, is it's just like it keeps reliving, in a different way.
Yeah. I'm not sure how to pursue this thought, but the AI, like Mother is the AI in the ship.
Mm-hmm.
The alien itself, like a lot of talk about this movie always talks about the like femininity, body horror that is around pregnancy. All true, but I've never really known what to draw from that or to make from it. But it's, I guess the one thing I come down on is that like this movie's looking at a lot of the excess, or use the term abject earlier, that might not be a bad idea or a bad term too, but the parts of femininity or motherhood that are monstrous, and that maybe we don't accept and spill over the creature itself as a mother, and like the quote unquote mother that is the ship, that is really ultimately looking out. Like it becomes synonymous with capitalism, as you guys are both kind of suggesting.
The ambiguity of the alien, okay, let's go to the Nostromo. It means our man. It's an abbreviated. Theoretically, its etymology is Italian. Nostromo or whatever. It's like our man. It's gendered male. It's the boatswain. It's that sort of thing. But then it is also mother. And so even within like the machine itself, the boat that they're in is ambiguous in the same way that the alien is both penis and vagina all the time, and in the same way that it impregnates a man. It feminizes men and rapes them and impregnates them and murders them, and then turns the offspring into themselves rape machines that thereafter impregnate and propagate and that sort of thing. What I take from all of that is, like this, just all that is solid melts into air under capital. There is nothing that we would recognize and I understand this gets complex when, like trans politics. I'm just going to put all that shit to the side, because there's kind of a sense that the alien is sort of the trans menace, but I don't want to go down that. Not interested in it. What is at stake though is personhood as we understand it, under a situation of subservience, under contract, under law, under labor, and within a society and within a technocratic and highly technological society in which, like, we're creating thinking machines, we're creating objects that, well, actually, no, it's probably even more simple than that. We're just like, we have under capital, women end up in the workforce, and gender roles are obliterated as a consequence. Like traditional gender roles, all that shit. I think stuff like that is at play, and
like
in all of this.
Everything becomes material to exploit or to further the expansion. And in a sick way, the alien does the same thing, right? Like genetic material is just there to be its plaything and to ultimately be absorbed into, not a collective, but just like its purpose.
I think Ridley's 2003 director's cut with the mystery scene that we'll finally get to now, where Dallas is revealed to be alive and he's being slowly transformed into an egg.
And
I've
never
same
seen
thing.
That.
Same thing.
Oh yeah, you can get it.
Yeah.
You can catch it on YouTube. It's like the cut scene.
And he does that "kill me," and Sigourney fucking burns him and stuff.
Yeah, so that's the original "kill me" scene, and she's crying, burning him alive to make sure that he doesn't fucking birth another alien.
Mm-hmm. And so that ties into that, like that, like all material, anything is transformed into ideology or into the material conditions to propagate the system. In the same way that, again, in the same way that ideology or the company might work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's immune though? Fucking cats.
Jonesy
is I think it's funny. I think there must be a bit of a joke there in the fact that it's like an alpha predator of its own that sort of like makes sort of not peace, but like is sort of like walks through the space immune, and it gets a lot of people killed, I feel. In fact, in the chest bursting scene, when everyone's freaking out, that cat is very calmly.
Yes, I'm glad you noticed that. Yeah, the cat's just fucking chilling.
Yeah.
And the alien later just kind of like looks at the cat. Like critics have identified a relationship between the alien and the cat in this. And I didn't think about the fact that Brett's death is so connected to the cat, and Sigourney has to fucking deal with the cat. I would not give two fucks about the goddamn cat in that situation.
Cat.
Sorry, cat. Oh, you're
First thing I would do is grab whoever that is by the collar and be like, if somebody mentions that fucking cat, all of us are sticking together until we either get rid of this thing or get off this fucking ship. The fucking cat dies with the thing.
I do feel like you're right. It feels like that is like if you said that to your partner, you'd be a monster, like you'd have to turn around and be the monster yourself. yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it does seem like that is a nod to some sort of femininity in Ripley.
I think so. Yeah, like that book I had read, Alien Woman: The Making of Lieutenant Ellen Ripley. What do they say about? Fuck, if I can find it quickly. What Ripley does, however, in the final say, Ripley is not a radical feminist or even a political feminist. She is not a collectivist or a Marxist. She tells Parker to shut up with the rest. She does not burn her bra, though she does not wear one, or speak out about the abuses of the patriarchy. What Ripley does, however, is question laziness, random decisions made from a self-centered autocracy, corporate technocratic capitalism, sexism, subversion, covert operations, and warmongering. She hates nonsense and likes cats. She may not be a feminist hero, but she is a hero for potential feminists. It's the likes cats thing that I'm reminded of The Punisher and how his violence is whitewashed by his kindness towards children. And I'm not going to say that Ripley's violent or anything, but like her no nonsense. We're gonna follow the rules. We're gonna follow quarantine. I know what we're doing. This is all bullshit, but I still like cats. You know, she's a bitch, but she still likes cats, and so we can like her. Right?
I was gonna say, because there's a lot of things you listed, a lot of things about a personality that would make you not like someone, or me personally. It would be like, this person is intolerable and fucking annoying. Yeah. But that's more because I'm a Parker.
You're a little. I think there's some have written about Parker, you know, like that maybe Parker had sort of desires for Ripley. It's not certain. Like during that steam scene, when, you know, obviously he's being an asshole, but then when she leaves, like his response is it's weird. I forget what he says, but he's just like, fuck, you know. It wasn't even. Yeah,
but that's part of the low class man too. The low class grunt man makes it.
Well, he wants to
about all women.
At any given moment, even after Kane. Like, okay, another thing about this fucking movie, another complaint I'll have is that after Kane, you know, spontaneously like resurrects from having been face raped. They're just like, hey, let's have breakfast together. Yeah.
Oh, buddy. Kane would be put right into a goddamn pod after I punched him out, probably.
Yeah. Just, oh, you're up? Okay. Just,
let's get some for a moment? Let's get some grud with the fucking biohazard guy. Oh,
Yeah.
Who let him out of the fucking lab?
And
that's funny,
like,
but...
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Like, just like it's, and then they go immediately to eating, and then Parker's first action is to talk about how he wishes he was eating something else. And you know, he's looking at Lambert as he says it. It's like, Jesus, dude, all you fucking guys.
Right. Little joke there, little Brad action for you. No.
Oh, okay,
right.
I get it now. Yeah, I get it. Right? Is that all you say? Is that all you say? Okay. Yeah. I another thing that I globbed onto this time was the there's a I think it's a fucking Hitchcock saying is or precept or whatever, is like, if you want to build tension, add a ticking clock. That's it. You know, it's real simple technique, but fucking tried and true. And I think this movie does a couple things. Obviously, the self-destruct sequence, I really fucking took a lot of liking to that this time. I loved that sequence. There's a part of the movie that really grabs me and gives me joy. It's that entire like strobe light self-destruct, you know, and she's like,
and somehow like all the air vents are fucked.
Just constantly, yeah. Like, oh my god, and to be in the theater, I think I would really like to see this in theater. I've never seen it in theater. I'm sure I'll have an opportunity.
Me either. You know, and that's kind of funny too. It's kind of sad because I think when we were younger and we lived in the big city, the old Bloor Cinema used to play it all the time.
Yeah, we're just like, you can do that any old time. You don't need to do that. It'll always be there.
Yeah. You can always just go see Alien. Funny thing is, you can see replays of Alien, Jaws, E.T., shit like that. Pretty. You know, some theaters still do that. They still back run them. You just gotta keep your head up.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, eventually, it's gonna happen around the city, and I'm gonna do it when the time comes. But until that time comes, like, I just I was really the way that I was thinking of Kurosawa. The way that Kurosawa makes a scene interesting is to always have movement in the background. And even though I said that this movie's very slow, like, even in those slow scenes, there's, like, think about when they're going through the hallways at the beginning of the movie in those first 5 minutes or so. There's even those ducks, you know, going up and down or whatever. There's always something moving. there's paper fluttering or something like that. When Brett is looking for Jonesy, and he stops to essentially put his face in the rain, which always, like, as a thinking about it, I'm like, what the fuck is that water? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, is that like, yeah, that's got to be. I processed that this time around too, and the only thing I can think is like, either your heating and cooling system has condensate that's coming down, which is absolutely disgusting to let fucking drip in your mouth.
Yeah.
Or it's off of the landing ship that they used, because it froze to some degree, and it's thawing out in their bay, which is also gross.
Not great.
Probably nasty.
Yeah. Like, so there, no matter how you chalk it up, that is not good water to drip into your face. But
yeah,
he's a
but
rough guy.
I think that's as a science fiction movie, I guess. So this movie harkens back a lot to 2000 AD. 2001. Sorry. And other sort of, and obviously your Star Wars or whatever. But its design sense probably has a lot more in common with 2001: A Space Odyssey. Even though, like, it's a dark version of it. It's a dirty version of it, but it's much more in keeping. But what kind of, the sci-fi nerd in me is like, I think about all this technology and I'm just like, they've got this artificial gravity, and I know Romulus is going to play with that shit, but like, honestly, it's better to not call attention to how fucking dumb it is that these people aren't floating around. I don't know, like, I can't reconcile, like, what the fuck is artificial gravity? Because they even talk about it in this, I'm pretty sure. Artificial gravity initiated, some shit like that. And like, what, you're bending space? Like, what are you doing? Like,
you're just pressurizing, right? Like,
that is not how gravity works, man. You
not
need to bend fucking space. You need, like, huge amounts of mass in order to, fucking cause you to fall down.
I don't know why I'm always comfortable with that. As a science fiction trope, I'm like, no, you're good in your spaceship, though.
Yeah. The spaceship's fine. But given the materiality of this, and given how they're trying to make it realistic, and I know Zero Gravity would not make it a better movie. I absolutely know that. It would make it. The only movie that started to make use of that was Event Horizon, to greater or lesser effect.
I would say greater.
Yeah, but they didn't do so bad. Yeah, they did not do so bad.
No, I mean, we're Event Horizon apologists, though, on the podcast.
I will absolutely apologize. I don't need to apologize for Event Horizon.
People
need to apologize to me if they think it's a bad movie. Yeah, but just I already commented on the cigarette smoking and the coffee drinking, and just like it is a little too mundane, but for it to be, to my mind, science fiction, it is. People rightly describe this as a slasher movie or a haunted house movie that has science fiction trappings.
Yes, yeah, I agree with that.
I'm good with that.
I think
that's fine. Yeah.
I think that's why, Chris, you just held, which obviously, spoiler alert, but we're going into Aliens next. But I think that's why people often describe this as their number 2, is that Aliens is the premiere of the franchise.
That's my favorite.
And Aliens is also I believe to be the quintessential sci-fi movie.
Oh, wow. What, really? Okay,
yeah,
we can talk about that later.
Yeah, I'll defend that later. But,
yeah.
I didn't know you were gonna come at me though, so I'm gonna work harder when I do defend it.
Well, it's just that, like, it's quite the statement. I just thought, like, there's gotta be something better, more
Blade Runner.
Than...
Don't be gay.
Oh, okay, all right. Ridley's fascination with the synthetic, with the artificial human, is really interesting. Like if you tie this together with Blade Runner, I find myself often thinking, well, not often thinking, what the fuck? I have thought in the past that these movies, Blade Runner and this movie, could be in the same universe.
Totally agree.
There's not much reason to think otherwise. Like the technology of the Nostromo is, it looks very 1970s, but at the same time, it's also very futuristic, very Star Wars. They're synthezoids. They're out there in space. They're doing this, that, and the other thing. Like it's a question of like what year. Well, we know what year Blade Runner's in, so maybe Alien is a later. We don't know the year of Alien actually. I don't think. I might be wrong about that.
No, and that's part of the funny thing about the Alien universe too, is I don't think you don't really ever go to Earth.
No.
So you're not
threat is
sure.
that it will end up on Earth, but
yeah, that's always a threat. Yes, but the sort of technological and like ethical and groundwork for everything that's happening on Earth is never really laid out for you. You're not really sure how far along they are. I think even in Aliens, you're on a space station.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with those politicians and stuff, they're not on Earth. Are they back on Earth?
No, I don't recall if they're actually back on Earth, but they are on a space station. That much is clear.
Prometheus will begin on Earth, but I don't know if that counts.
Well, that's the that's the
origin of the origin, right?
But I mean, like they organize in a garage and then go straight to space, so
right.
It's like you're still never really taken through like what technology Earth has available to it, and how rampant the use of androids is, if it's only like for government or space exploration, if it's exclusive to corporations. So it's like, and I think that it's best to have all that masked.
I'm not interested. Not like the Dark Horse comic.
You're gonna get it because the new TV series is.
That's enough.
Well, we've already gotten it though. Like the Dark Horse comics already covered that shit. Like we'll get to it, but the aliens end up on Earth. And very likely your upcoming TV show is gonna riff very heavily off that shit.
When you care too much about that, you get the galactic trade wars and Star Wars and Metachlorians. Like that's the bad.
Metachlorians.
Don't explain too much.
What the fuck? Yeah, we got to spend some time on the Metachlorians one day. It always
leads to Jar Jar.
Jesus Christ, what a dumb fucking idea. I don't it's such a pure concept, and like, why would you consider ruining it by making it?
No, you gotta have the science there.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, science pixie dust wasn't enough.
Oh. Yeah, simple blood test will tell me where this guy stands. Oh. Wait, what?
So I don't know, Alien. Sorry. Do we got anything else on this guy? I'm like, honestly, there's a million things to say about it. I'm sure we could go, but is there a serious bit that we missed, or?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. I'm still standing with it. I prefer it over Aliens.
Okay, you're a purist. It's a matter of scale, right? Like this is a claustrophobic movie. It's smaller scale in its way, but it's pure. It is pure. I would definitely say that's true.
Yeah, Ash would appreciate it. It's I appreciate purity. And actually, one thing that I didn't say about that is like the connection to like sort of fascism or whatever. And in the 70s, it was very common to think of fascism as a manifestation of capital. That it was like capitalism and fascism. Fascism was born of capital within a certain strain of theorists about the matter. Not such a popular view any longer, but probably prevalent at this time, and maybe ties into what the imagery and all the shit with Ash and the company and whatnot.
Yeah, and what David will become in future manifestations, which he's already covered in the past.
Yeah. I probably this will come up a little bit more when we talk Prometheus, but I did start rewatching Covenant And I didn't have the same feeling where I was like, oh no, my initial response to Covenant was still correct.
Oh yeah.
No,
Honestly, Covenant, some of the only charms are just the just get it, like watching Ridley work with a big budget. It's just it's beautiful. You can be like, wow, man, look at that spaceship land. You know, that's what you're getting out of that one.
Yeah. With this movie though, you get something that I was at the bar with my friends of mine the other day, and we were talking about the best monsters, and someone was like, I really like Dracula, really like vampires, and so it's such and such, and someone said something, and we were, trying to figure out what's the best monster, and the best monster is the alien. Is sort of where I landed. I was like, it's much better than all the other things. It incorporates all the other monsters, except for the mummy, perhaps. But it is a.
Oh, the mummy's a bit mental, though.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
So are you gonna
we don't really
need
the mummy.
No, I'm gonna hate on the mummy. I will
okay, seriously, it doesn't do anything with the mummy. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
No, yeah, I'll shit on the mummy and Phantom Menace all day.
That's fair. Yeah.
It's good. That's the Extinction Agenda prerogative.
Now, all we need is a little energon and a lot of luck.